If you've spent a weekend scrolling through endless thermal scope options, watching YouTube demos, reading spec sheets, and still feel like you're staring at a wall of numbers, you're not alone. The biggest fear is pulling the trigger on a piece of tech that looks amazing on paper but ends up being a clunky distraction in the field. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. In this review, I'm going to walk through exactly how the ATN Thor 5 LRF Smart HD Thermal Scope behaves once you mount it, fire a few rounds, and head out at dawn, so you can decide if it's the right fit for your hunt or if you should keep looking. First, let's talk about the category itself. Modern thermal scopes have moved far beyond just see heat. The average buyer today expects a sensor that can pick out a deer on a 30-degree night, a built-in laser rangefinder to give you an exact distance, a ballistic calculator that updates your holdover on the fly, and even the ability to record a video of the take. All of that sounds great, but it also introduces trade-offs. More electronics mean a bigger power draw, a heavier tube, and a steeper learning curve on the menu system. The question is whether the Thor 5 balances those demands in a way that actually helps you on the ground. Starting with the sensor, ATN calls it a ultra-sensitive next-gen thermal imager. In practice, that translates to a clear, high-contrast picture even when the ambient temperature is only a few degrees above freezing. I took the scope out for a weekend deer hunt in the foothills of the Rockies. The first light was a thin blue-gray, and the sensor immediately painted the silhouettes of a small group of bucks as bright white blobs against the dark background. The contrast didn't wash out when the sun peeked over the ridge, which is a common complaint with older thermal units that lose detail in bright daylight. That kind of consistent image quality means you spend less time adjusting gain and more time focusing on the shot. The OLED display is sharp enough that you can read the reticle and distance readout without squinting. When you enable the optional laser rangefinder, the distance pops up in a large number at the top of the screen. The rangefinder itself is a solid addition for anyone who wants a quick, accurate distance without pulling out a separate handheld device. In my test, it locked onto a target at 800 yards in a couple of seconds, even though the target was partially obscured by brush. That speed can be a real lifesaver when an animal darts off a ridge and you only have a split second to confirm the range before the shot. Now, the ballistic calculator. It's not just a static table. The Thor 5 lets you input your rifle, load, and zero, then automatically adjusts the holdover based on the range you just measured. I loaded a .308 Winchester with a 168 grain bullet, set my zero at 100 yards, and the scope displayed the exact point-of-aim correction for every range I rang. When I took a shot at 650 yards, the reticle shifted just enough to compensate for bullet drop and wind drift, nothing you'd have to calculate in your head. For a hunter who spends time tracking a game animal over varying terrain, that on-the-fly adjustment reduces the mental load and lets you stay focused on the animal's movement. One feature that feels surprisingly practical is the ability to create and share custom reticles. ATN's app lets you design a reticle that matches your preferred holdover pattern, then sync it to the scope over Wi-Fi. I experimented with a mil-dot-style reticle for long-range shots and a simple chevron for close-quarter hog hunting. Switching between them is as easy as scrolling a menu, which means you can adapt the scope to the specific hunt you're on without swapping out hardware. Video recording is another selling point that actually shows up in real use. The Thor 5 records in HD, and the footage includes an overlay of distance, temperature, and the ballistic solution you used at the moment of the shot. On my hunt, I recorded a successful take on a mature buck and later reviewed the clip on a laptop. The overlay confirmed that I was at 720 yards, the ambient temperature was 38 F, and the scope's calculation suggested a 4-inch holdover, exactly what I did. Having that video can be valuable for post-hunt analysis or for sharing with friends who want to see the process, not just the final kill photo. So far, the strengths line up nicely with what most serious hunters need: consistent image quality, a fast rangefinder, an integrated ballistic calculator, customizable reticles, and HD video. The downside? The scope is a bit on the heavier side compared to a basic non-thermal red dot, simply because of the sensor, rangefinder, and processing board packed into the tube. If you're a backcountry